Happy NBA trade deadline day. It's your boy Pee Wee the Plug. Today is a national holiday for NBA fans around the globe. I will say it is not the trade deadline that we were all hoping for. A lot of big names, or the biggest names that we were hearing rumored to be moved, they did not get traded. Some of the teams that we felt like were desperately needed to make a move, the Warriors, the Lakers, they didn't make no moves. But beggars can be choosers. We got activity, and that's all that we can ask for. So before we dive in, I want to say make sure you hit that like button for me. And if you're new and you enjoy this type of content, make sure you subscribe. Now, let's dive into all of these trades. Now, typically when the trade deadline happens, I love to try to go in order, but we got to start off with my favorite team, who I think is the biggest winner of the trade deadline, the New York Knicks. We started off the trade deadline with such a bang. I am so happy. Anybody that watched Numbers on the Board, you would know a few days ago we did our own trade deadline where we all had a select group of teams and we traded with each other and what we thought would happen. And then we also did some things that weren't as realistic, but just for fun. One of my trades was exactly this trade. I had the Knicks getting Bojan Bogdanovic, and I had us also getting Alec Burks, and I had us giving up Fournier, Quentin Grimes, Archie-Diakano, and I had us giving up a first-round pick. So this shows you that I do have some type of GM skills and some GM type of thought processing, but this is ultimately why they are the professionals that I'm not. The Knicks were able to pull this off without giving up a first-round pick. They also threw in Malachi Flynn because we just didn't have any minutes for him. But most importantly, we were able to bring back two rotational guys and a guy who had already previously been here in Alec Burks and is familiar with some of the guys on the team, the coaching, and how we like to play basketball. So I think we are the ultimate trade deadline winners. You add this onto the fact that we acquired OG Anunoby a month before. And then again, we didn't really dive into our major assets, which is the trade capital. I mean, the draft capital. We have a lot of draft capital that we have not dove into yet. And that leaves the door open for future potential moves, whether that's in an offseason, draft night, so on and so forth. But ultimately, bringing in two guys like Bojan and Alec Burks is phenomenal. And not only does it give us depth, it gives us shooting that has always been a premium that's needed in New York. As long as we're playing through Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, they're going to need to be surrounded by shooters. I think we got two legitimate guys who can do that. Alec Burks is an extreme punch off of your bench. And if Bojan Bogdanovic is coming off the bench for us, which I would anticipate, I don't know yet, that's an even bigger push. We have a legitimate core or rotation of Brunson, DiVincenzo, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, Alec Burks, Bojan Bogdanovic, Josh Hart. Like, we are extremely deep, and we're already playing high-level basketball while we have some guys out with injuries. But when we're at full strength, I think we have a chance to be as good as anybody in the East. Now, obviously, Boston is still that top dog, and until the playoffs come and somebody proves that they can beat them in 7 games, that's still a tough mountain to climb. But I like our chances against anybody else. And the fact that nobody else really made any moves that can compete with this, it gives me an extra boost of confidence. And I just think the pieces really complement everything that we have. And it's hard to now look at the Knicks as not a threat in that Eastern Conference. Again, obviously, when you talk about the Boston Celtics, they've been head and shoulders above everybody in the NBA. So until somebody proves that they can beat them in a 7-game series, the Celtics are going to be the favorites. But with the Cavs playing as good of basketball as they played, the Bucks made some moves today, but they've been struggling on the defensive side of the basketball. Joel Embiid and his question mark status with the Philadelphia 76ers, who also made a move today. I kind of get confidence in the Knicks to be able to really start to kick things up as long as we can stay healthy and get some of our main guys back too. Obviously, Julius Randle and that shoulder injury. They're saying Mitchell Robinson is starting to practice and get on the floor a little bit, recovering from his injury. Maybe he's back in time for the playoffs. Who knows? But this is a good move that can not only help us this year in this playoff run, but also next year. This is going to be a team that I think we can bring back and be as deep as anybody and continue to compete. On the flip side, though, I must say I do love this trade for the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, they're giving up 2 extreme assets, but the return is something that I think could help them as well. I just think Quentin Grimes potentially could be somebody that could fit well next to Cade Cunningham. Now, you do have a lot of guards there because you have Cade Cunningham. You now have Malachi Flynn. Who knows if he's going to get minutes. They did release and waive Killian Hayes, which we'll get to. You have Jaden Ivey. Asar is like a wing and a guard. Grimes is like a wing and a guard, 2 or 3. But I do love the fact that Quentin Grimes is a catch and shoot guy who's going to defend. I think Detroit needs those type of guys, and you had that, but you had some of those guys that are much older value, guys that are veterans that are looking to play more competitive basketball. Now you swap that out and you bring somebody that's more on the same timeline as a Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey and whatnot, and it fits a little bit better. And Quentin Grimes is a lot more cheaper than the money you were paying Bogdanovich and Alec Burks. So I like that pickup for them. You'll deal with Evan Fournier for another year, or I think it's a team option, so you'll probably part ways with him at the end of this year. You'll do the same with Malachi Flynn and Ryan Archie-Diakino. But to be able to get Quentin Grimes, a nice young piece, and you get 2 second-round picks, they've been loading up on the second-round picks. The Detroit Pistons are going to have second-round pick galore. There'll probably be a lot of moves that they're going to make on draft night just because they're going to be handing out seconds left and right and just building up their draft capital for second-round picks down the line. But I do love this move for them, and I think the Knicks, they really hit it out of the park. When this deal was first reported, we didn't know that Bogdanovich was involved. So they announced it as the Knicks acquire Alec Burks in a deal surrounding Quentin Grimes. When me and the Knicks Nation heard that on Twitter, our reaction was, damn, like we like Alec Burks, but then Quentin Grimes' value dropped so much that it's just Alec Burks. You know what I mean? So when we saw that Bojan Bogdanovich got put in it, it made it like, okay, there we go. So I love this trade for us. I think this is probably an A++. This is exactly what you're looking for if you're the Knicks. A lot of guys didn't really pan out. The Portland Trailblazers ended up keeping Jeremy Grant and Brogdon. Jordan Clarkson was always an iffy one because I didn't know how well he would fit in with how we play basketball and being coached by Thibodeau. So now to bring in a familiar face with Alec Burks and then also a guy, Bojan Bogdanovich, who can play for all 30 teams. He's just one of those wings at 6'8", who can guard multiple positions. He can get hot and take over games. He can be a catch and shoot guy. He can play for anybody in the NBA. And I know he's going to love playing in New York because we have guys that are going to draw attention to be able to kick it out to him for shots. And Thibodeau is going to play him a lot. And he's now on a team where he can really play at a high level and get back to playing competitive basketball because Detroit, though they had something they thought were cooking up, it obviously didn't go in that direction. So now they're folding and he's out of that situation. The next trade that I think is as big or one of the biggest players is the Mavericks. And y'all see right there, the Mavericks get Daniel Gafford in exchange for Rashawn Holmes in draft compensation. This to me was like one of the most underrated moves at the deadline. I think right after the Knicks, you have to give the Mavericks an A. They really came in and they capitalized on certain situations, and this was one of them. You know, the Wizards was just making moves. They decided to hang on to Kyle Kuzma, but obviously the Mavs need front court depth, and they got that. I think Daniel Gafford is a very underrated big. I think if you put him in a situation like Dallas, or if you were to put him out there in OKC as a backup on a team that's in the playoff hunt, I think he would be a little bit more appreciated. Obviously, they have Derek Lively. He's still a rookie. He's missed some time. He's been banged up a little bit. So now you have a counterpart where even if Daniel Gafford is the starter, you now have Derek Lively coming off the bench for him. If you continue to roll with Lively, you now have Rashawn. You now have Daniel Gafford behind him. I just think that two-headed monster playing 20 to 25 minutes a piece is going to be really, really good, and it kind of gives them similar looks. So when one goes off the floor, you still got a guy who can rebound, screen, and be a live threat for Luka Doncic in the pick and roll, and you don't have an extreme drop-off. Because when you bring in Dwight Powell, when you bring in Maxi Kleber, though Maxi Kleber can stretch the floor a little bit, he's not the screen setter that these guys are. He's not the rebound. Those two guys aren't the rebounders that these guys are, and they're not the lob threat that these two guys provide on that floor with Luka Doncic. The other move to bolster up that front court is P.J. Washington. Again, another situation where the Mavericks came in and took advantage. P.J. Washington has long been rumored to potentially be on the market. His contract was so nice that I'm surprised he didn't have so many more aggressive suitors. But I think this trade is phenomenal. They gave up a pick. The 2027 first-round pick is top 2 protected, so the Hornets will get that, but it's so way down the line. They probably weren't going to do anything with this pick anyway. You get off Grant Williams in that 4-year contract. It's not the worst contract in the world, but you don't want to have to deal with that for 4 years. That just didn't pan out the way that they thought. And then Steph Curry has not really been the Seth Curry that I thought the Mavericks were going to be getting. He's barely playing. I think he's averaging 4 points or something like that. And it's just not the player that I was excited to see them sign in the offseason based off the previous year that he had. So you're able to flip all of that and get a PJ Washington who is not necessarily having the best shooting season with Charlotte, but I think with Luka and Kyrie being able to get him certain shots with pick and pops or driving kicks, I think a lot of that offense will start to open up now. And the fact that they were able to retain Josh Green, which to me was their most valuable tradable assets outside of draft capital, that's another win. So now they're looking at a rotation that has Luka, Kyrie, you have Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, Derrick Jones Jr., PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively. You still can always trust them, Mr. Reliable, and Kleber and Dwight Powell. I love Dante Exum. The Mavericks are they're gearing up to make a playoff run. And the fact that you have Luka, the fact that you have Kyrie, two guys who can win you games or keep you in games by themselves, when you add these key pieces, they end up becoming big in the long run. So I know PJ Washington is a really strong player, but I know he's not an all-star level player. I know Daniel Gafford isn't an all-star level player. They aren't earth-shattering moves. But based on the player that they have as their guy, which is Luka, and his sidekick being Kyrie, I think these two moves make me confident for the Mavericks to be a lot better in the playoffs. Now, depending on the matchups, the Mavericks can upset somebody. We've seen it before. We've seen Luka be paired up with KP and KB get hurt, and Luka's still holding his own against the Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George, double-headed monster, and he's just going back and forth with them, back and forth with them, back and forth with them. Now you give him a little bit of help, it may end up showing that he can put something together. It's a team that went to the Western Conference Finals. Let's not forget, they got manhandled by a team that was a lot more experienced, a team that was a lot more of a well-oiled machine. But I think these are the type of pieces that can give you the hope to have a puncher's chance to have another run like that. Because when you have a player as special as Luka Doncic and his backcourt mate is Kyrie Irving now, I just think anything is possible. So I just got to tip my cap off to the Mavericks and their fan base and their organization. To me, if the Knicks don't get Bogdanovich in that trade, if it's just the Alec Burks, Quentin Grimes trade, the Mavericks are by far the biggest winners of the NBA trade deadline, and it's not even close. It's not even close. So shout out to the Mavericks. I cannot wait to see this team play now. I just think if you put out a lineup of Luka, Kyrie, Derrick Jones Jr., PJ Washington, and Derek Lively, and your bench is Tim Hardaway Jr., Daniel Gafford, Dante Exum, I really like this team. I really like Josh Green. I like this team a lot going forward. They got better, which is the name of the game at the trade deadline. Another move, moving on, the Philadelphia 76ers. Very interesting situation because we still don't know the status of Joel Embiid. I was talking to a Sixers fan the other day. I said something in my video on a Heliocentric podcast that Embiid had a meniscus tear. And he was like, they were saying it's a flap. Yeah, listen, the 76ers have a way of reporting injuries and reporting the procedures and different things like that. I am not here to rain on a parade of any Philadelphia 76ers fan. The man is getting a procedure done, and it's dealing with the meniscus. I'm no doctor, but based off what they're saying, it seems like it's a meniscus tear, which is why he's going to have to get reevaluated. It's why they were weighing their options. If it was as simple as some 76ers fans are trying to convince themselves based off the technicalities of what's being reported, there wouldn't be much thought. He would have just had a simple procedure. They would have said, this is how we're going about it, and boom, 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 boom. When it's that simple, it's that simple. But what makes me feel like it's a tear, it's all of the extra. They met with several doctors, right, to figure out if they were going to arrest it, if they were going to do it. There's so many different things that went into this decision. It wasn't a quick little, you know what I'm saying? So that's what's got me on a little on edge. And based on how they took their time to specifically report it in certain ways, makes me feel like, y'all, it was a tear. He's going to have to miss an extended amount of time. They're going to do the reevaluation because they obviously want to have some type of hope. They don't want to rule everything out. But this trade made me kind of open up my mind a little bit. I feel like you don't make a move like this if you think Embiid is completely 100% out, or maybe they trade Buddy Hield and want to just be able to be the ones that can have the ability to re-sign him, But all in all, I love this trade for the Philadelphia 76ers. This is a trade that I wish they would have made at the start of the season. Once they announced that Buddy Hield was on the trade block, I wish whatever stopped the Sixers from making this move. Besides the fact that you got Marcus Morris and Batum and all of those guys from the James Harden deal. Once you made the James Harden trade, shortly after, I would have been looking to make this move because we knew Marcus Morris was never going to be a key component to the Philadelphia 76ers. Furkan Korkmaz has been begging to get out of there, and 3 second-round picks that was always going to be available. I think the Sixers were always willing to give up 3 second-round picks for Buddy Hield. But now I think at full health, I love this trade. At full health, you're looking at a situation where you have Tyrese Maxey. We know what he can do. You have a floor spacer in Buddy Hield. I don't know if you start him. I don't know if he comes off the bench because you do have DeAnthony Melton, who I think provides you some really good perimeter defense. At your 3, you have Kelly Oubre. And at the 4, you go Covington. And then you have Embiid. You don't go Covington. You go Tobias Harris. And now off the bench, you have Covington. You have Buddy Hield. You have Batum, Paul Reed, and so on and so forth. I'm sorry. You traded Patrick Beverley, which was the main thing that was on my mind. But yeah, even without Patrick Beverley, I still like some of the options that you have with the bench because the Philadelphia 76ers, the depth has been something that's been in question for a while. Hopefully Embiid can get out there. I don't know. He's such a big figure at 7 foot, 260 plus pounds, maybe 285 pounds. I don't know his exact weight off the top of my mind, but him being in shape is a big component of his game, and having a lower body injury after the procedure, he's going to have an extended amount of time where he's not putting anything on that knee. There's no weight, there's no movement, there's no running, there's no jumping. So by fault, he's going to fall a little bit out of shape. Then you have to rehab for the knee, and then you have to rehab to get back into game shape, and then you're telling me you're just going to drop him right in the midst of the playoffs? That's a lot of pressure. I want to see him get 1,000% healthy, but I do love this move, and if you're able to continue to have Buddy Hield going forward when Embiid does get back 100%, this team will be right back in the mix as dangerous as possible. They also trade Daniel House to the Pistons with a second-round pick, and that just keeps them, like it says up here, right under luxury tax. We'll see what they get, maybe some type of draft capital because, again, the Pistons have draft pick, second-round pick galore. A trade that kind of confused me. I'm not going to lie. A trade that kind of confused me. The Raptors. The Raptors and the Jazz did a move. Obviously, where the Raptors are able to get back Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji, and the Jazz get back Otto Porter, Kira Lewis, and a 2024 first-round pick, least favorable of OKC, Los Angeles Clippers, Houston, if 5 through 30, and Utah if 11 through 30. So as of right now, this pick is the 29th overall pick if the draft started tomorrow. I'll say this. A lot of Raptor fans, which annoys the hell out of me, they try to justify every move that they make. I personally am not a fan of them giving a first round pick. I know you have multiple first round picks. I get it. I know. But based on the state of the team, I think you need all of those picks you can get. And that's just me being as honest as I can be. I like Kelly Olynyk. He's really, really, really good, especially with the Jazz. He was really, really good. He's on an expiring deal. When he gets to market, contending teams are going to want Kelly Olynyk. Now, when this trade happened, I was willing to pump the brakes because a lot of Raptor fans were telling me, oh, this is nothing because we're going to recuperate the draft capital by trading Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk in a new deal. We're just going to ship it away. Bruce Brown didn't get traded. Kelly Olynyk didn't get traded. This is what you have. So now you have a team of Emmanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, and then you have Kelly Olynyk, Ochai Agbaji. You still have Gary Trent. You guys are going to let him walk at the end of the season. You have Grady Dick, Jonte Porter. We'll get to another deal that they made. For me, maybe it's me. Maybe a lot of people are higher on Ochai Agbaji. I think that may be the real difference maker in as far as perspectives on this trade. I like Kelly Olynyk, But I don't know if Kelly Olynyk is going to be here long term. And the fact that y'all aren't that good, I think y'all should give up on a play-in hope. I think y'all should really give up on a play-in hope. So I would just collect all of the draft capital that I can get. You see, that's what Danny Ainge is doing. Danny Ainge is just collecting them. Just collect them because you don't know what you're going to get. There's never the idea that fans have, oh, man, that's a late first-round pick. It don't matter. Desmond Bane was a late first-round pick. Jimmy Butler was a late first-round pick. Tyrese Maxey was a pick in the 20s. So was Quickly, if I'm not mistaken. Hell, OG Anunoby was a pick in the 20s. So was Pascal Siakam. If anybody should understand, it should be the Raptors. So that was my whole point of it. I also seen some Raptor fans that were telling me they prefer to have Ochai Agbaji over the 29th overall pick. Hey, I don't know if y'all are going off of Kansas. I've seen some flashes in Utah, but he wasn't really able to carve out a consistent role for himself in a Utah Jazz team that is cool and playing better, but he's never been like a staple for them. I don't know what anybody else is saying. I don't think there's just not enough information for me to be in favor of Ochai Agbaji. The dude can play. I've seen him play at Kansas. I know what his projected role of an NBA player should be with his size and his shooting ability, and there is some explosive athleticism there. But me personally, I would much rather have my first-round pick. I have no problem bringing Ochai on, but if I can keep my first-round pick, I'm willing to do that. And the Jazz, you get Otto Porter Jr., you get Kira Lewis Jr., and you get a 2024 first-round pick. Both of these guys, Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji, I think they're replaceable in what you do. I love what Kelly Olynyk was able to give you off your bench, but hey, in the grand scheme of things, you have Larry Markkinen, Walker Kessler, John Collins. Y'all have been making it work. I think that's a theory that Utah is going on. Like, hey, Kelly Olynyk was real good. He was really good. But nobody on our team outside of like Laurie and some of the guards are doing anything that's not replaceable. And now this basically opens up minutes for some of those younger guys. Bryce Sensabaugh needs minutes. Taylor Hendricks needs minutes. You know what I mean? And that this opens up the door for that while bringing in another first-round draft pick. No matter where it falls, it'll be in the first round. And whether, it be a late pick, mid pick, lottery pick, fans should educate themselves enough to know a first-round pick is a first-round pick. We've seen really good role players and sometimes star players be drafted all throughout the first round. Even sometimes the second round is a lot more far-fetched, but the talent is usually all through. And I love a team like the Raptors draft history with not so high picks. So that was my whole thing about it. Luckily for the Raptors, they have multiple picks and ain't that big of a deal for them. If this turns out to be something, they probably will have another swing at it at 31 or prior to that. But I just think that they're in a situation where they need to covet and prioritize getting picks instead of talent. I mean, instead of not talent. I'm sorry. Instead of players that are talented, but I don't know how long they stay. That's just me. Raptor fans, they're going to find a way to fight it or nitpick it and find a way to say you're bugging, you're tripping. I'm telling you, man. After everything that they traded, Pascal, OG, Dennis Schroeder, I'm not Fred leaving. I'm just not a fan of the return. That's just my thinking. Let's scroll around some more. Gordon Hayward finally free. Somebody posted a video the other day. Somebody was I think Brandon Miller had a 36 point game. Everybody was happy, congratulating him, and it just showed Gordon Hayward sitting on the bench. And I'm not saying he was hating or anything. He probably congratulated and was happy for him too. But he was just chilling. And people were showing the video like, man, Gordon Hayward can't wait to leave. Well, here it is. Gordon Hayward not only leaves Charlotte, but he gets to go to a team that's in the mix. And I think this is a team that he can be somewhat useful for. So shout out to the Hornets and the Thunder because I like this deal a lot. And in both ways. First of all, Gordon Hayward, veteran wing, plays basketball at a really high level when he's healthy. This is a dude who can shoot threes. He can shoot middies. He can pass. I don't know. It's hard to really judge him as a defender on the Charlotte Hornets, but he's always been a solid wing player. The only thing has always been when he's healthy. He can pass, dribble, shoot, rebound, and I think he can be somebody that's reliable in the playoffs off of the bench for the OKC Thunder. So I think that's a major pickup for them. Again, as long as he can stay healthy, especially on the last year of that deal. Now, in return, what I like for the Hornets, you get Trey Mann. I love that. You get Trey Mann, a guy who's kind of been held hostage in OKC because they have so much talent, especially at that guard position. How is he supposed to play? Especially with the emergence of Cason Wallace, who fits what they try to do a lot more better as a 3-and-D guard. You have Giddey, you have Shea, they love Dort. There's just not really a large amount of minutes for a guy like Trey Mann. I think that changes in Charlotte. Now that there is no Terry Rozier, now that LaMelo Ball is out, Kyle Lowry will probably be a buyout option or candidate. I take Trey Mann over every guard that they have now. He's going to play. He should play over Nick Smith Jr. He should play over Ish Smith. I think Trey Mann can go over there in Charlotte and really start to show that he can play, and he can play at a high level. So I love that trade for both sides. Davis Bertans continue to just be traded and traded and traded until that contract expires. So I love that trade ultimately for both sides there. Moving on, another trade. Here's the other trade by the Raptors. They give up Dennis Schroeder and Thaddeus Young to Brooklyn in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie. It's been reported that the Raptors are going to waive Spencer Dinwiddie, and he's going to be a buyout market now for some playoff or contending teams. Understandable move. You bring in an expiring deal in Spencer Dinwiddie, and you're basically going to let that $20 million go and open up some money there. Dennis Schroeder has been cool. He's been solid, but you have Emmanuel Quickley. Thaddeus Young is one of those vets that you love, but you just throw him in here to make this money match, and you're going about your business. This is just another strategical move for the Raptors as far as freeing up cap space. Gary Trent Jr. is going to be off the books. Spencer Dinwiddie is now going to be another $20-some million off your books, and it just gives you some flexibility. I don't think that they're going to be major key players in the offseason as far as free agency. They are going to have to extend and pay Emmanuel Quickley some big-time money there. Going to be interesting to see how much of a price tag Emmanuel Quickley is going to command, because the Raptors ain't that good. His presence has been up and down, unlike when he was with the Knicks playing the certified six-man role. Now being that lead guard on a team that doesn't have as much talent, it's a little bit more harder to have that spark on a nightly basis, but he's still going to command a decent amount of money. So this just opened that up for them, and to have continued flexibility going forward as they retool their rebuild. Some minuscule moves to round out the trade deadline around the league. I'll go back to the previous day. Fontecchio got traded to the Pistons. I was a big fan of Fontecchio from the Jazz, man. He was just good there, and I wanted to see him move to like a Celtics. I didn't want to see him go to like a Pistons. And again, the Pistons, they give up a second-round pick, and they give up the rights to Gabriel Procida, who I really, really wanted to see play for them and come over from overseas. And then Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox probably goes to the Jazz, and he might have a night now where he did it with the Pistons too, where he makes 5 or 6 threes. But the Jazz are really, really like squeezing out as much basketball potential out of everybody that they have. Lauri's playing, and he was an all-star. They're getting production from John Collins. They're making it work with him and Kessler. They got Kelly Olynyk was doing his thing before they traded him. THT has had moments. Colin Sexton has had one of his best years. Keontae George. Like, you go to Utah, Will Hardy is going to say, what do you do well? And we're going to figure out a way to maximize that as much as we can in our offense. So you might see that from Kevin Knox. Fontecchio, man, I wanted to see him play some high-level basketball. The Celtics, here's the move the Celtics did make that I like. They went out and they bolstered up that front court a little bit with Xavier Tillman. Not necessarily a 7-footer rim protection, but he's a guy who has some mobility. I think he's a guy who can learn a little bit from Al Horford, and just another body to have when it comes to the postseason, because if Joel Embiid comes back and you have to go through them, or you have to go through Giannis, you're going to need some bigs that can soak up some minutes, because some of your guys might get in foul trouble or might get their ass banged up a little bit. So I ultimately like this move. They move Lamar Stevens and 2 second-round picks. That's just the vibe that Memphis is going to be having for a little bit now. Minnesota was on the market for a backup point guard. What is it going to be? Alec Burks? Was it going to be Clarkson? It ended up being Monte Morris. Ultimately, they give up a second-round pick. Detroit gets another second-round pick. They get Shake Milton and Troy Brown. Not really sure off the top of my brain the contract lengths of Shake Milton or Troy Brown, but I would have to think that they're not long-winded. So they'll probably be 2 deals that can come off the books rather sooner than later. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say Troy Brown Jr., I'm looking up right now, he should be on a 1-year deal, but Shake Milton might be 2 years or so. So current contract, you have this year, and then you have a team option. So they'll probably decline that team option.
and then they'll probably let him walk. And then as far as my guy Shake Milton, he is looking at a same type of situation. So yeah, these are 2 expiring deals, $5 million and $4 million. You decline both team options, and there's $9 million that goes off your books into free agency. And then Minnesota, you get a nice solid backup guard in Monte Morris. We haven't really seen Monte Morris this year. He's been banged up and he's been playing for the Pistons. Too bad things to mix up together. But I ultimately like the deal for Minnesota to get them a steady backup point guard. What else do we have out here in trade land? The Milwaukee Bucks. They get Patrick Beverley. Patrick Beverley broke his old trade on Twitter. He's going to the Bucks. And the Philadelphia 76ers are getting campaign and a 2027 second-round pick. Sure, I think this is phenomenal for the Bucks. The thinking behind this is not that Pat Bev is going to change the entire dynamic of their defense, but I just think that they're missing somebody like that. I would have loved to seen them get involved on PJ Tucker. How do they get that happen? Because he makes it like 11, 12 something $million. I don't know, but they just need dogs. They just need guys who are just playing hard. It don't matter. I don't care what Patrick Beverley defensive plus minus is or anything. If it's high, low, medium, I don't care right now. I just think they need guys with his type of mentality where they're just going to compete and they're going to play hard. The Bucks just don't have a lot of guys that just have that edge to them, right? You got Dame, you got Giannis, and then surrounding them, there should be some edginess and some toughness and some grit and a little bit of like, I'm just giving you all that I have. They were missing out on this roster, and now that they bring Patrick Beverley in, I really, really like that. They could be a team on a buyout, depending on how much, how many minimums or how many people are willing to take some minimums. We'll see. But I think this is a really good deal for them in the long run just because they need that dog or they need that grit and that voice on that team that's willing to, hold guys accountable. Say what you want about Pat Bev. Every stop he's had, he's been a voice in the locker room that he's taken on that role. In this last stretch of his career, he's taken on that role of being a voice and taking on the responsibility of keeping guys in line and in check to have one common goal. And I think he's going to do that same thing in Milwaukee. So I like that deal a lot just because when I watch them, I've noticed that they just don't have like effort guys that are just willing to get down and dirty. And Pat Bev is willing to do that. The Spurs trade Doug McDermott to the Pacers. I think this trade actually is a lot more extended than this. The Pacers get Doug McDermott. The Spurs are going to get a future second-round pick, but the Spurs are also getting Marcus Morris. So Marcus Morris was traded to the Pacers in the Buddy Hield deal, and then the Pacers are flipping Marcus Morris to the Spurs and a second-round pick for Doug McDermott, and the Spurs are going to part ways with Marcus Morris, so he's going to then hit the buyout market. So a lot going on with Marcus Morris. Shout out to Mook. Love his time in New York. He was playing phenomenal basketball for that stretch. But yes, Marcus Morris started today as a Philadelphia 76er, then was traded to the Indiana Pacers, then was flipped again to the San Antonio Spurs, and then will be let go in entering the buyout market for some type of contending team. Milwaukee, I know Marcus Morris ain't giving you the best 15 to 20 minutes, but just for dog's sake to have some grit, he's another guy. You know what I mean? He might can come in and hit a couple shots. He'll hit a post mid fade that you kind of don't really want him to take, but he took it anyway and he hit it. So now you're like, oh, okay, good shot. You know what I'm saying? He'll scrap. He'll fight a little bit. So that's another guy for contending teams like them. The Bucks also trade with the Sacramento Kings. They get some cash and they give up Robin Lopez. This deal maybe opens up a roster spot for them to be active at the buyout market. I'm not really sure there. The Kings get some more size up front. And the underrated move. Jaden Springer goes to the Boston Celtics. Why? I don't know, because I don't know if there's going to be too many minutes opened up for Jaden Springer. But I like Jaden Springer. Whenever I've seen him get some minutes and opportunity with the 76ers, I like what he gives you. He's a point guard that does a little bit of everything. So hopefully, something opens up for him there. The Philadelphia 76ers get a second-round pick to replace some of the 3 that they gave up to get Buddy Hield. And then you have Delano Banton going to the Portland Trailblazers, and the Boston Celtics getting a heavily protected second-round pick, something that you don't hear too often. And then the last move that we got was Corey Joseph. Corey Joseph to the Pacers with a second-round pick and cash to the Warriors. What else did we have? Some of this stuff didn't get updated over on ESPN. Royce O'Neal and David Roddy go to the Suns. 3 second-round picks and salaries go to the Nets. And Yuta Watanabe goes to the Grizzlies. A deal I really like right there for the Nets. Just dive in, get 3 picks back for Royce O'Neal. Very unfortunate they weren't able to get off a Dorian Finney-Smith type of trade. I really think that he would have been a guy that a lot of these teams would have bid at. You know, a lot of guys were not as available as we anticipated. You know, Caruso ended up not getting moved. DeJounte Murray did not get moved. Brogdon didn't get moved. Tyus Jones didn't even get moved. Delon Wright didn't get moved. There's a lot of guys who didn't get traded. So I think that ups the value of a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith. For a lot of teams are looking for guys who can defend and just stay in a corner or stay on a wing and catch and shoot shots. Like, that's becoming a premium right now in the NBA. And the fact that you have one of those guys and you didn't really do shit with it is just another head-scratching move for the Nets. I think they should have been a way more aggressive team. Dennis Smith Jr. is also involved in a trade with the Raptors. I don't think I mentioned that. Yeah, it's not even up here. See, Spencer Dinwiddie to the Raptors, Dennis Schroeder, Thaddeus Young. So Spencer Dinwiddie and Dennis Smith Jr. go to the Raptors. That's another guard for the Raptors. They're going to waive Spencer Dinwiddie, as we talked about. Other than that, that is really it. Draft rights to Israel Kamagate to the Clippers, cash to the Nuggets. Just another move where roster spots is being opened up and money is being sent to guys to get under the luxury. And yeah, so disappointing trade for me. Trade deadline for me, I just wish it would have been more. I think the Lakers not getting involved is a big mistake. I think the Warriors not getting involved, I don't want to call it a big mistake like the Lakers, but they're definitely a team that I would have liked to see have some type of input. The hope for the Warriors is that they have just a better second half of the season, right? You missed Draymond for a big stretch. He got suspended and got suspended indefinitely. You had some up and downs. Cool. So now you just hope that he's back and he's that missing piece that gets everything clicking. Clay start making some shots. You have Steph Curry playing high-level basketball. Jonathan Kuminga is turning the page in his career, and you hope you just can catch a stride, right? That's just your biggest hope. So, unlike them, they have a little bit more of a little delusion to lean on because this has always worked for them. The Lakers, there's really no excuse. They're not really playing good basketball. Neither is the Warriors, but at least the Warriors can say they didn't have Draymond Green for an extended period of time, and some of the guys in the rotation were literally just not playing good. The Lakers, you got to make some type of move. You got to at least go get Tyus Jones, go get Delon Wright. Hell, I know you can't go get DeJounte, which is your most, biggest player you were looking for. You got to try to swoop in and get Otto Porter. You got to do something. You got to shake some up over there. Unfortunately for them, they may have lost Jared Vanderbilt for the rest of the year. They obviously don't want to give up Austin Reeves, and not too many teams were looking to acquire D'Angelo Russell. So their assets and their movable pieces, I just don't get. And for them to be saying that they're looking to get a third star in the offseason, they're confident that they can land a Donovan Mitchell. It just makes me scratch my head and wonder what NBA is the Lakers watching? And what world do they have anything that the Cavs would want for Donovan Mitchell? Hell, if anything, LeBron should go back to Cleveland and go hoop with them guys. Some of the guys that are expected to be available in free agency or the buyout market, Spencer Dinwiddie, who it's been rumored that the Lakers will show interest in and the Mavericks will show interest in to reunite with him. You have Kyle Lowry. I heard Kyle Lowry is on the top of the Philadelphia 76ers list, especially now that they parted ways with Patrick Beverley. That makes a lot of sense. You have Marcus Morris. You have Robin Lopez, Joe Harris, who was released by the Detroit Pistons. You have Kai Jones, Daniel House, and then Killian Hayes. Killian Hayes also was released by the Detroit Pistons. That was a shocker for me. That was a super big shocker, just for the simple fact that former lottery pick, 7th overall pick, and he doesn't even get to a second contract. He doesn't even have enough value for y'all to trade for a second round pick in the future. And that was just really my main thing. I was just surprised with the fact that there was nothing. You know what I mean? Like, we saw the Grizzlies had some interest. The Grizzlies weren't willing to give y'all a second round pick for Killian Hayes. Same thing with Joe Harris. Like, usually you see something like this in football. You may even see it in baseball. I'm not really used to teams just dropping guys. Like, hey, you're waived. Like, I'm not used to seeing that. I'm used to seeing guys just being moved for a second round pick. It's like, hey, I don't want this guy. Somebody else come take him. Just give me a second. You know what I mean? Just give me something. And no, Killian Hayes, a former 7th overall pick, was not even worth a second round pick. The Pistons couldn't convince anybody to give them a few. Hey, give me a 2026 second round pick. No. So now he enters the market. I know he requested a trade. I know a lot of people were like, why did they do this? They could have just kept him. You know what I mean? Like, if you couldn't get anything, just keep him. He was frustrated. He wanted to change the scenery. Obviously, the Detroit Pistons are frustrated. They have nothing to really be happy about. This is a team that lost 28 games in a row. This is a team that took this guy 7th when you had a guy like Tyrese Halliburton still on the board. I have no idea. Me personally, I would take a chance on Killian Hayes depending on what team I am, just because I always think that when you are a former lottery pick, you deserve that change of scenery. You deserve that change of scenery. We've seen certain guys be hidden gems that weren't properly developed or in the right situation with the first team that acquired them. And I see a lot of fans on the timeline that were just willing to like give up on Killian Hayes. I put out a tweet that was like, hey, I would sign Killian Hayes immediately. I don't care. If people are like, oh man, he must not know. Anybody gonna tell him? No, I know exactly what's been going on. But that's not enough for me to not take a chance on a guy who y'all organization once thought was worth a 7th overall pick. Even it's not even about trying to get a guy to be a star again, but it's like, is there something? Could he just be a decent role player for us? You know what I mean? His defense has gotten better. Can we do something that could put him in a situation that makes him a lot better? Because outside of Killian Hayes, y'all suck. Killian Hayes failed the Pistons, but the Pistons failed Killian Hayes too. That's a marriage. I don't look at the Detroit Pistons being in the situation they are, and the only person I look at is Killian Hayes. No. This is no time for the Pistons to think that they are uppity on any high horse. That goes along with their fan base as well. Y'all don't really have any type of ability or room to look down on anybody. Y'all lost 28 games in a row. Y'all are a laughing stock. Y'all are fucking terrible. So to have some type of arrogance where y'all can look at a player and no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And y'all are a team who's done the same thing. Y'all are the team that tried Marvin Bagley. Y'all tried James Wiseman. Y'all tried Josh Jackson. So I don't really understand the logic behind Piston fans who act like it's laughable that somebody should go take a chance and give Killian Hayes a new change of scenery. Y'all have done it yourselves with other failed prospects who didn't do what they were expected in other situations. Fan bases don't really make sense to me in some of those regards, to think that y'all are like don't forget, y'all are the Detroit Pistons. Yeah, Killian Hayes ain't do what he was projected to do. I feel you on that, but y'all are part of that. Y'all are responsible for the lack of development that we've seen there. Whenever, I think fan bases don't understand that part. If somebody don't live up to something or somebody don't pan out, that's not a reflection of just the player. That's a part of the development team too. Unless y'all just show that y'all are developing market. Y'all just develop everything. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it is. Cade Cunningham, I'm sorry, Detroit. He's not going to be a development story for y'all. He's a first overall pick. Not a lot of teams get developmental credit for first overall picks. Y'all are going to be judged on the Killian Hayeses. Y'all are going to be judged on the Jaden Ivies, the Jalen Durans. You know what I mean? Like, those are the guys that y'all are being looked at as far as developing. And to be honest with you, Killian Hayes, this one is gonna sting, man. This one is gonna sting. He was the first pick under Troy Weaver. That's gonna sting. Not to mention, y'all still have Monty Williams, who y'all just made. I don't know. Detroit just got a lot going on. I was just as shocked as y'all that he wasn't traded for a second round pick or something. But hey, maybe this is just best for both situations and both sides. The Pistons were extremely active at the deadline, so they'll have backup players and guards and shit like that to replace his minutes or whatnot. And hopefully he can land on his feet in the right situation. There's a bunch of teams that come to my mind that should be looking at him. Spurs could look at him. The Bucks could look at him. Hell, the Timberwolves could look at him. There's just the Grizzlies can still go after him. Phoenix, you know, I don't know. Just anybody. Golden State, after they traded Corey Joseph, you know, like Brooklyn, because they lost Dennis Smith Jr. Who knows? But there's a lot of teams that could take a chance on him. All in all, incredible trade deadline as far as the activity. Again, we did not get the moves that we wanted. DeJounte, like, that's my thing too. How would y'all feel? Y'all feel free to let me know in the comments. How would you feel if you were talking about being traded all month? Shit, the last couple of months. You was just 1,000% traded, it's for sure. And then all of a sudden they don't trade you. Now you got to go back in the locker room. And it's like, oh, y'all was just trying to trade me. DeJounte was feeding into it. He was talking back to people in the comments. He would go on the road and take pictures of the banners like he was in Miami. You know what I mean? He would just do little things. And now he's back on the team. Same thing with Bruce Brown. There was a point where Bruce Brown was selling himself to the Knicks. Hey, man, I would love to play for Thibs. I'm Thibs type of player. I think he would love to have. Yeah, I do everything he likes. And now you got to go back to the Raptors. So that's always an interesting thing. Yeah, y'all give me all of y'all reactions to everything in the comments. I know a lot of people had some very interesting takeaways from some of these moves. Who disappointed you? Who do you think hit it out of the park outside of the obvious Knicks or whatever? As always, though, I'm your boy PB the Plug. This is the PB the Plug channel. Make sure you hit that like button. If you're new and you enjoy this type of content, hit that subscribe button. I'll see y'all next time. I'm out. Peace.